From chains to freedom, the story of Kareem. Kareem grew up in the chaos of a broken home. His father had abandoned the family, his mother struggled to provide, and anger became the fire that fueled his young heart. By his teenage years, Kareem had already fallen in with men who promised him belonging and power. They spoke the language of revenge, of violence, of fighting for honor. To a lost boy, their promises sounded like truth. By 20, Kareem was no longer a boy he was feared. He had committed acts he could hardly bring himself to remember, and though he carried himself with pride on the outside, inside he was crumbling. The more he hurt others, the emptier he felt. But by then, there was no turning back. One night, after a failed raid on a rival group, the police stormed in. Kareem was dragged away in handcuffs, tried, and sentenced to years in prison. For the first time, the steel doors slammed shut behind him. Not just physically, but in his soul. Prison was cold, unforgiving. The gangs inside tried to recruit him, but the walls had stripped away the illusions he once held. At night, he lay awake on his bunk, haunted by the faces of the innocent, by the sound of mothers crying, by the endless silence of guilt. Is this my destiny? He asked himself. To die behind bars, hated and forgotten? It was in that darkness that light came. One afternoon, a chaplain visited the cell block. He was an older man, soft-spoken, carrying nothing but a small Bible. He paused at Kareem's cell and simply said, "Son, you are not forgotten." Kareem laughed bitterly. "Not forgotten? I'm already dead." But the chaplain didn't argue. Instead, he slid a thin booklet through the bars, a collection of stories about forgiveness, grace, and redemption. That night, Kareem opened it out of boredom. What he found shook him. There was a story of another man, violent, filled with hate, a persecutor, who encountered a vision of Jesus on the road to Damascus. His name was Saul, later called Paul. Kareem couldn't believe what he was reading. If a man like that could change, he thought, then maybe there's hope for me too. Over the weeks, the chaplain returned. He listened more than he spoke. He prayed for Kareem, even when Kareem mocked him. And slowly, Kareem's hard shell began to crack. One night, in the quiet of his cell, Kareem whispered words he had never spoken. "If you are real, if you truly forgive, show me." That night, Kareem dreamed he saw himself standing in a vast, burning field. His hands were covered in blood. But then, a figure clothed in white approached him, not with anger, but with eyes full of mercy. The figure touched his hands, and the blood vanished. Kareem woke with tears on his face. From that moment, everything shifted. He asked the chaplain for a Bible. He began to read every day. Other prisoners noticed the change. He refused to join the gangs. He began helping others learn to read, sharing his food, praying for those who mocked him. Though the walls of prison remained, inside Kareem discovered a freedom he had never known. By the time he finished his sentence, Kareem was no longer the same man who had entered. He walked out of those gates with no riches, no status, but with something far greater, a heart set free. Today, Kareem travels from church to church, school to school, telling young men the truth he learned behind bars, that hate destroys, but love redeems, that no chain is too strong for grace to break. His story isn't polished, his past still carries scars, but when he speaks, his voice trembles with the weight of truth. I was a prisoner twice, once to my crimes and once to my soul. But in the darkest cell, I met the one who opened the door. His name is Jesus.